Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Gopi Jana Vallabha Giri Bharadari Gopi Jana Vallabha Giri Bharadari Jasodananana Braja Janaranjana Jasodananana Braja Janaranjana Jamuna Tira Bana Chari Jamuna Tira Banachari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Gopi Jana Vallabha Giri Bharadari Jai Jai Gopi Jana Vallabha Giri Bharadari Jasodananana Braja Janaranjana Jasodananana Braja Janaranjana Jamuna Tira Banachari Jamuna Tira Banachari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jayam Vishnupad Paramahansa Paribrajacharya Asto Tadasasasi Mad, His Divine Grace. A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Maharaj, Srila Prabhupada Ki. Ananta Koti Vaishnava Vrinda Ki. Namacharya Srila Haridas Thakur Ki. Prem Sikaho Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shri Vasudhi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Ki. Shri Shri Radha Krishna Gokupina Shamakun Radhakun Giri Govardhan Ki. Shri Vrindavan Dham Ki. Shri Mayapur Navadip Dham Ki. Ganga Maya Ki. Jamuna Maya Ki. Bhakti Devi Ki. Tulsi Maharani Ki. Sambed Bhakta Vrinda Ki. Shri Nitai Go Premanandi. All glories of the assembled devotees. All glories of the assembled devotees. All glories of the assembled devotees. All glories to Shri Guru and Shri Gauranga. Hari Hari Bol. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Hare Krishna, dear devotees. Good morning to everyone. I hope that everybody is well and everybody is relishing Kirtan 50 this year. You all excuse me for a second, but I'm going to turn the seat a little bit because I want to see everybody in the audience. Good, now I think I can see everyone. It's a pleasure to be here with you again in Dallas at the end of the year and the beginning of a new year. We hope that everybody had a successful 2025 in terms of your development of Krishna consciousness. And we pray that in 2026, all of us will increase our Krishna consciousness. That as each day passes, we will make like some additional effort to engage ourselves in hearing about the name, form, qualities, and pastimes of Krishna. And that we will become very clear and realized in the point that what will deliver us from this material life is the process of Shravanam and Kirtanam, hearing and chanting about Krishna, and endeavoring to develop the qualities of the Vaishnava in the association of the devotees of the Lord. That's why these Kirtan festivals are particularly wonderful, because we all come together and we're focused on one thing, which is the holy name of Krishna. And that will pick us up and that will qualify us, and that will purify us, and that will save us. So this morning, I was thinking what to speak about, and generally my thoughts go all over the place. And today I was thinking that we should speak about the compassion and the kindness of Caitanya Mahaprabhu and our founder Acharya Srila Prabhupada. And I think it's important for all of us to understand their deep mood of love and compassion and humanity and fairness to everyone, so that we can mold our lives in that way, that we can become more loving devotees, and that we can become more compassionate devotees, and that we will be very humane and broad-minded and inclusive in our Krishna consciousness movement, welcoming everyone to the lotus feet of Radha Kalachandji, and welcoming everyone to the realm of pure bhakti. I often think that, well, I don't often think, but I've thought that when I was a child, I grew up as a Christian, and I belonged to a very liberal denomination in Christianity. It's called the Disciples of Christ, the Christian Church. And in this denomination, there were only two things that people had to commit and believe. And one is that Jesus was the Son of God. And the second thing was, when it came time to taking the Holy Communion, everybody was welcome to the table of Christ. Not that some people were discriminated against, or some people were it was said that some people perhaps followed another denomination or another confession, so you couldn't take communion here. But everybody is welcome to take, the communion in the church. And I often think that Caitanya Mahaprabhu was so wonderful that everybody was welcome to the kirtan of Caitanya Mahaprabhu. No one was excluded from Lord Chaitanya's kirtan. And he brought in everyone. He never saw according to caste. He never saw according to race. He never saw according to any other material designation or distinction. He just invited everyone, take love of God and develop love of God. So, and he gave love freely. Like in the Chaitanya Caritamrta, it's explained that he and the Panchatattva, they broke the seal on the storehouse of love of God, and they drank very, very liberally until they became intoxicated. And then in that intoxicated state, they went to everyone else and they said, please drink with us. So they were very liberal. Of course, Lord Chaitanya said, please give up sinful behavior, but the most important thing, you chant Hare Krishna, because if you do that, everything else will happen. Like our Srila Prabhupada in the beginning of ISKCON, he was just having people chant Hare Krishna and giving them prasadam because he knew that the purification would take place. And indeed it did. And then after initiation, then he sprang all the rules and regulations upon them. But Lord Chaitanya was so kind and so merciful. So we've just pulled up a few examples of his kindness and mercy and a few examples of Srila Prabhupada's kindness and mercy. One that we're all familiar with, we're familiar with all of these different things, but one is the deliverance of Jagai and Madhya. And these two brothers, they were born in aristocratic Brahmin families, but they fell from their position and they became criminals, and they became debauchees, and they became drunkards. They were, many times in our ISKCON dramas, Jagai and Madhya are portrayed as silly drunk fellows, at least in dramas that I've seen in the past. Like Jagai and Madhya become some sort of slapstick comedy. But Jagai and Madhya were very, very bad people. They were very, very bad. They gave up all of their qualities for intoxication and greed and basically just hurting people. And they abused Nityananda Prabhu, and for that reason, Caitanya Mahaprabhu, he wished to kill them both. And he was encouraged by Nityananda not to. And so instead of, like Nitai said, you didn't come to kill the miscreants, but you came to kill the miscreant mentality. And thus, Caitanya Mahaprabhu delivered Jagai and Madhya, and they became pure devotees of the Lord. And they always lived with a heart of remorse for their sinful behavior. So Caitanya Mahaprabhu, after he saved them, he never mentioned again the bad that they had done, but he had only, encouraged their practices of devotional service. And another example of the compassion of Caitanya Mahaprabhu was when he was touring in India, and he met there was one Brahmin, and his name was Vasudeva. And Vasudeva was a leper. His body was completely covered with leprosy sores. I don't know if any of you all have ever seen a person with leprosy, but back in the 70s and 80s, whenever I'd go to Rishikesh, just at the beginning of the Lakshman Jula, all the lepers would sit there looking for donations, and it was quite a horrible thing to see just their fingers melting off and their nose melting off by this disease. So there was this Brahmin, and he was a very elevated person, but he had leprosy. And he heard that Caitanya Mahaprabhu was in the village where he was staying, and so he got up and he prepared himself to go and to meet Caitanya Mahaprabhu. But by the time he reached the place where Mahaprabhu had been staying, Mahaprabhu was gone. And he was very aggrieved. Now this Vasudeva himself, he was a very compassionate and very enlightened person because he had these worms that were living in his leprosy sores. And whenever one of those worms would fall out, Vasudeva, feeling compassion for the worms, would pick them back up and put them back on his sore because he didn't want the worm to feel any discomfort or any pain. It's kind of interesting, the type of consciousness that he had. But then he heard that Mahaprabhu had come, so he quickly went to that place. Mahaprabhu had left, and then Vasudeva fell down to the ground unconscious. And as soon as that happened, Caitanya Mahaprabhu realized that this very elevated soul had come to see him. And Mahaprabhu returned to the village, and when he returned to the village, he just picked up Vasudeva and embraced him. And it said that, after Mahaprabhu touched him, his leprosy and his distress went to a faraway place, meaning, the leper Vasudeva assumed a very beautiful body, a very beautiful and a very effulgent body. And Vasudeva was astonished to see this. And he began to recite a verse from the Srimad Bhagavatam, and he said, "Who am I? A sinful, poor friend of a Brahmin, and who is Krishna? He is the Supreme Personality of Godhead, full in 6 opulences. Nonetheless, he has embraced me with his 2 arms. So he was amazed by this compassion of Caitanya Mahaprabhu. The Brahmin Vasudeva then spoke and he said, "O my merciful Lord, such mercy is not possible for ordinary living entities. Such mercy can only be found in you. Upon seeing me, even a sinful person goes away due to my bad bodily aroma, yet you have touched me because you are the independent Supreme Personality of Godhead." And because Vasudeva was very meek, and because he was a very humble soul, he started feeling afraid immediately that he would become proud after being cured by the hands of the Lord. So then Caitanya Mahaprabhu told him, he said, no. He said, just forever go on chanting Hare Krishna purely, and you will never be affected by pride. This also makes me think of the situation of Srila Sanatana Goswami when he escaped and he went to Puri, and on the way he drank some bad water and he got like boils or some type of terrible skin disease all over his body. And his body was constantly oozing with foul-smelling aromas. But when Caitanya Mahaprabhu would see him, Caitanya Mahaprabhu would eagerly embrace Sanatan. And when that would happen, Sanatana Goswami would say, "This is horrible. You know, I came here to Vrindavan, I came here to Puri, and I can't even go to the temple to see Jagannath because of my prior association. And not only that, the Lord keeps coming and he keeps embracing me." And his conclusion is that, you know, what I should do is I should just commit suicide. So he made a plan that during the Rath Yatra celebration, when Jagannath was on the cart and Mahaprabhu was dancing in front of the cart, he'd throw himself under the wheels and kill himself. And when Caitanya Mahaprabhu saw him, he said, "Sanatana, it's a bad idea. You're not allowed to kill yourself. Despite what difficulties you may be going through, you know, suicide is not allowed." Mahaprabhu told him, if I could attain Krishna by performing suicide, I would kill myself 1,000,000 times in a minute just to have Krishna's darshan. He said, but that's an activity of darkness, and Krishna can only be attained by knowledge, you know, or by pure devotion. And so Sanatana was aggrieved. And then later, there was an incident where, you know, he felt so aggrieved that he took advice from, I think, Jagadananda Pandit what to do. And Jagadananda said, well, after the Rath Yatra and so on, so you know, Mahaprabhu will quit embracing you. You should just leave and go to Vrindavan. And Mahaprabhu one day said, what's the news? And Sanatan told him that. And he said, what? Who has given you such foolish instruction? And he said, Jagadananda. And the Lord went, Jaga? Who is this Jaga? He's such an insignificant boy. He said, I will accept you even as my advisor. And then Lord Caitanya just revealed his heart of love for Sanatana Goswami, and he was also with Haridas Thakur at that time. And he said, I see you just like my 2 little babies, and that's the way I love you. And just like a mother will never take offense at anything her baby does, then whatever you could do, I never take offense. One time this is Ananda Caitanya over here, this gentleman in the back. He's distributing books written by Srila Shivaram Swami over here. Once, about 40 years ago, at the manor, Maharaj was giving class from that section of Caitanya Caritamrta. And and he was reading along and he was giving comments. And then it came to the point where Mahaprabhu said, just like a mother will never take offense by anything her child will do. So sometimes the child will pass urine on the mother, or the child will pass stool on the mother. And he says, the urine is accepted like Caritamrta, and the stool is accepted like sandalwood paste. And Maharaj read that, then he turned to the Matajis and he said, is it really like that? So merciful was Caitanya Mahaprabhu. He had so much love, so much compassion, and acceptance of everyone. Just look at Mahaprabhu. It's like the people in his associates, Rupa and Sanatan, they were Brahmins that essentially became excommunicated because they took up the service of the Shah, but he accepted them. And Ramananda Roy, he was from a Sudra family. They accepted him. Haridas Thakur, born in a Muslim family, accepted him. Lord Caitanya, he was like so humane. He just accepted everyone and said, please, perfect your life by chanting Hare Krishna. Another example is when Lord Caitanya was traveling through the Jharikanda forest. What did he do? He induced the animals to chant and dance, and chant Hare Krishna. And they were chanting Hare Krishna. Another example of Lord Chaitanya's, compassion is when the devotees of Bengal were traveling to Jagannath Puri to spend 4 months with Mahaprabhu. And that was all organized. The Parikram was organized each year by Shivananda Sain. And he would organize everything right down to the detail. He would organize the prasad along the way. He would organize the boats that they would take across rivers. He would, really organize everything. And it's said that while they were passing along one day, a dog became attracted to the devotees. And so Shivananda immediately accepted the dog as part of the Parikram group. And even when it came time to passing across rivers, Shivananda Sain would pay for the dog to pass also. And one day, Shivananda was away. He had to go out to attend to some business. When he came back, the dog wasn't there. One of his first inquiries was, did the dog eat? Did the dog eat today? And they said, the dog's not here. And Shivananda Sain, he felt so bad about that. And then when they got to Puri and they went in to have darshan of Caitanya Mahaprabhu, the dog was sitting next to Caitanya Mahaprabhu. And Caitanya Mahaprabhu, he had, a coconut, and he was taking the tender coconut flesh out, and he was feeding it to the dog, and he was saying, chant Hare Krishna. And the dog was chanting Hare Krishna. I mean, generally we think, oh, dogs, no. Dogs are unclean. Brahmins don't keep dogs. Devotees don't keep dogs. True confession. Last winter in my yard in Vrindavan, we had 7 puppies living there. They had been abandoned. It was freezing, and so we just took them in and grew them up, and then took them to the ISKCON Goshala so they would be safe. Mahaprabhu was telling the dog, chant Hare Krishna, bolo, bolo. The dog was chanting Hare Krishna. And then it said that in front of all the devotees, the dog assumed a 4-armed Vishnu form and flew back to Godhead. Lord Caitanya is so kind. Lord Caitanya is so merciful. We have the story of Raghunath Das Goswami. He came from a family of millionaires. Back in that time, multimillionaires. But from the time of his birth, he had no attraction to it. It's like the difference between us and Raghunath Das. We're born and automatically we want wealth. And he was born into wealth, and he had no taste for it. So from young age, he started running away, and it was like creating a scandal in the community because, the son of the wealthiest person was always running away from home. And we know how the father, had guards going with Raghunath every place he went. The father got Raghunath married to a very, very beautiful girl who the father described as being more beautiful than the damsels of heaven. And when the mother would scream, "Do something to this boy, chain him to the wall," the father would say, "Look, I got him married to a beautiful girl. If that doesn't work, nothing will." And then, but Raghunath Das, he wanted to go to Lord Caitanya. And so the way he was able to get mercy so he could go to Lord Caitanya is that he served Nityananda. And he served the devotees of Nityananda at the original Panihati festival. And after that, Nitai told him, he said, "I'm very pleased. You've served me, you've served my devotees. Very soon all your obstacles will be removed and you will be able to go to Chaitanya Mahaprabhu." So he served Vaishnavas and he served the Lord and he received mercy. And then finally when he did escape and he met Lord Chaitanya in Jagannath Puri, Lord Chaitanya, he told him, he said, "Krishna is so merciful. And because of Krishna's mercy and because of Krishna's compassion, you have been able to escape." And he said, "Don't take me wrongly. I know your father, I know your uncle, they're very rich people, they perform so many nice activities." He said, "They look like devotees, but they're not really devotees because they're attached." And Lord Chaitanya gave a very strong example. He said, they're just like, small worms that live in stool and don't have the power to get out, and they're not interested in getting out. He said, "But you got out. And why is that? Because you became the object of the love and the compassion and the humanity of the Lord. That's why you're here." And Chaitanya Mahaprabhu kept saying, "Raghunath, understand, there's nothing greater than the mercy of Krishna. There's nothing greater than the compassion of Krishna. Always look for Krishna's mercy." Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, as I mentioned earlier, he accepted Haridas Thakur. And Haridas was from a Muslim family. I read one time Srila Prabhupada said before he became Haridas, his name was Ibrahim. And but from the time he was born, he had spontaneous attraction for chanting Hare Krishna mantra. And Lord Chaitanya, thank you. Lord Chaitanya accepted him and made him the Namacharya. And because of his position of having birth in a Muslim family, but being, 24 hours a day chanting Hare Krishna mantra, and being so renounced, he became the object of so many people's enmity. And at one point it said that he was arrested by the local authority. And the local authority said he should be beaten to death in 21 marketplaces. And Haridas, he didn't object, he just went and they started taking him to these marketplaces and tying him up and beating him and beating him and beating him. And then they take him to another marketplace and beat him and beat him and beat him. And finally in one marketplace, the people who were beating them, they looked at him, they said, "Sir, could you please do something?" And Haridas said, "Yes, what is your request?" They said, "Could you please die? Because if you don't die, we're going to die." And Haridas, feeling compassion and love for them, he just said, "Certainly." And he, by his mystic potency, his life airs left his body and he appeared to be dead. And they went and they threw him in the river, and then shortly thereafter, he just called his life heirs back into his body and he emerged. Very compassionate person. I mean, can you imagine if somebody had you tied up and were beating you and you just felt love for them? You know, you felt love and compassion for them. And then later it's stated that when Caitanya Mahaprabhu, when he performed that, Mahaprakash Lila in the home of Srivas Thakur, he was calling everybody to give them blessings and mercy. And he started calling for Haridas. And he said, Haridas, Haridas. He said, do you remember when they were beating you in so many marketplaces, but you lived and you were unaffected by the pain? And Haridas said, yes. And then Mahaprabhu turned around and he took the chadar off his back. And he showed him lash marks on his back. And he said, I love you so much that I was covering your body and I was taking all the lashings that you were receiving. So in this whole spiritual realm, there's just love and compassion and acceptance of everyone. Another example of Caitanya Mahaprabhu, and then Haridas, as far as Haridas is concerned, we've all read, how overwhelmed Caitanya Mahaprabhu was when Haridas passed away. And he personally, picked up Haridas's body and he started, singing the glories of Haridas Thakur. And he took his body to the sea, he bathed his body, and he put his body in samadhi. So much love for his devotees. And then just the fact that, Caitanya Mahaprabhu, he created social reform in India at that time. Srila Prabhupada once, I heard him say in a lecture, he said, Caitanya Mahaprabhu democratized the Vedic religion by making it accessible to everybody through the chanting of the holy names. And Caitanya Mahaprabhu broke down barriers. And he just said, everyone come, take Krishna Prem, take Krishna Prem, take Krishna Prem. So much love and so much compassion and so much inclusivity. Another example is the deliverance of Rupa and Sanatan Goswami. Because they had served Hussein Shah, they were excommunicated, but they heard that Caitanya Mahaprabhu was spreading love, and so they started writing letters to Caitanya Mahaprabhu. And they were saying, please come and save us, please come and save us. So Caitanya Mahaprabhu went to Ramakeli. And in Ramakeli he was meeting so many devotees, but because Rupa and Sanatan were such high government officers, they were a little afraid just to go and meet the Lord. So one evening they took off all of their royal court clothes and they dressed themselves very simply as Vaishnavas, and they went to where Caitanya Mahaprabhu was staying. And when they saw Mahaprabhu, the two brothers, they started standing up and falling down and standing up and falling down and standing up and falling down because they were in ecstasy. And they were reciting different verses, glorifying the Lord. And finally, Caitanya Mahaprabhu just looked at him and said, Rupa, come here. Rupa, come here. He said, stand up, come here. And Caitanya Mahaprabhu, then he said, it is not possible to describe Krishna's mercy and compassion because he has delivered you from the well of material enjoyment. And then Caitanya Mahaprabhu recited a verse. I think the reference is from the Harivamsa. He said, even though a person is a very learned scholar of Sanskrit Vedic knowledge, he is not accepted as my devotee unless he is pure in devotional service. Even though a person is born in a family of dog-eaters, he is very dear to me if he is a pure devotee and has no motive to enjoy fruitive activities or mental speculation. Indeed, all respect should be given to him, and whatever he offers should be accepted. Such devotees are as worshipable as I am. So he said, look, come. You know, you're pure devotees. You have pure devotional intent in your heart. Please come. And after reciting that verse, Caitanya Mahaprabhu picked up Rupa and Sanatan and he gave them an embrace. And then the two brothers, they folded their hands and they recited a verse that we all know. Namo Mahabharanyaya Krishna Prema Pradayate Krishnaya Krishna Chaitanya Namani Gaur Tvashe Namaha. And they said, O munificent incarnation, you are Krishna himself appearing as Sri Caitanya Mahaprabhu. You have assumed the golden color of Radharani and you are widely distributing pure love of Krishna. We offer our respectful obeisances to you. So Caitanya Mahaprabhu, he was kindness personified. He was love personified. He was compassion personified. He was humanity personified. And just think of Caitanya Mahaprabhu's greater and broader mission for the world. And that's described by Kaviraj Goswami in his Mangalacharanam in Chaitanya Charitamrta, where he says, Anarpita charim charat korunaya vatirna kalau samarpayitam unatta ujvala rasam sabhakti shriyam. He says, may the Supreme Lord, who is known as the son of Srimati Sachi Devi, be transcendently situated in the innermost chambers of your heart. Resplendent with the radiance of molten gold, he has appeared in the age of Kali by his causeless mercy to bestow what no incarnation ever offered before, the most sublime and radiant mellow of devotional service, the mellow of conjugal love. So, Kaviraj Goswami explains that Caitanya Mahaprabhu came to this world essentially for two reasons. One reason was for him and one reason was for us. And the reason that Caitanya Mahaprabhu came for himself was to taste the love that Radharani feels for him. And what he gave to us was the devotional service by which we can taste the mellow of conjugal love for Krishna, which is something that no incarnation of Krishna ever gave before. And we think of ourselves, we're like the very low and very fallen people of Kali Yuga, but still Caitanya Mahaprabhu came to give us the greatest gift through the performance of Harinam Sankirtan Yajna. Then we can think of Srila Prabhupada and how compassionate Srila Prabhupada was. Srila Prabhupada left his home and he left his family because he wanted to do something for his family of humanity. He wanted to do something for the entire world. Srila Prabhupada, after he left home, he lived very, very austerely in first Mathura, but then more austerely in Vrindavan, where he lived at Radha Damodar and he was writing the Srimad Bhagavatam. And once back in 77, just after Srila Prabhupada passed away, I went back to Godhead. I got a letter from the editor of Back to Godhead magazine, and he said, Srila Narayan Maharaj from Mathura was involved in the ceremony. Can you go over there to Mathura and ask him about his relationship with Srila Prabhupada, how they knew one another? And so I went to Mathura, and I requested to speak to Maharaj. And he couldn't speak hardly any English at that time. It was more like giving example with the hands and speaking English. But one point that he made was that when Srila Prabhupada lived at Radha Damodar, it was so austere for him. It was extremely austere, and said the only thing that he had was like a quilt that had holes in it. And he used to wrap himself up in that in the nights in Vrindavan. I guess all of you have been to Vrindavan in the winter. It's like terribly, terribly, terribly cold there. And he said he would go out, he'd go to Delhi, he would sell his, back to Godhead. He wouldn't spend any money on himself. He said he lived so frugally. And Maharaj said, I used to beg in Mathura, and I used to get chapati flour, and I used to get some vegetables, and I would take to Prabhupada at Radha Damodar. And he said, first what we would do is we would sit and we would read Srimad Bhagavatam together. And then after reading Srimad Bhagavatam, we would make either rice or dal or chapatis. And when he was trying to explain that, he was saying, I would do this, and Prabhupada would do this, and cooking the chapatis. He said, but extremely austere life he lived while living over there. But Srila Prabhupada, he had this compassion, and he had this love. He said, I have to prepare myself, I have to write, I have to do this because my spiritual master has asked me, to preach in that part of the world. So he lived so austerely, and he left, and we know that by reading the story of Srila Prabhupada, he had a couple heart attacks on the way across, he almost died. Then he came to New York, and he was living amongst crazy people, absolutely crazy people. But Srila Prabhupada, he only saw that within their heart there was the spirit soul that needed Krishna consciousness. And so Srila Prabhupada tolerated everything in the name of love and compassion and being fair to people. There's one story. Another time, just after Prabhupada passed away, I went to Delhi, and I was walking in Connaught Place. And I was walking by, and one man came from his shop, and he folded his hands. He said, Hare Krishna. And so I said, Hare Krishna, Prabhu. He said, I knew Prabhupada. And I said, yes. I said, the whole world knew Prabhupada. He said, no, I really knew Prabhupada. And I said, tell me your story. And he told me how Prabhupada used to walk through Connaught Place selling his BTG. And every day Prabhupada would walk by and he'd go, Hare Krishna, Swamiji, any service for me? And Prabhupada would say, chant Hare Krishna. And then one day Prabhupada walked by and he said, Hare Krishna, Swamiji, any service for me? And Prabhupada said, yes, I live in a wretched place. He said, please find me some nice place to live. And so the man, he said, I started thinking, and his father-in-law was one of the trustees at the Chippiwada temple in Old Delhi. Has anyone here been to the Chippiwada temple? It's beautiful, isn't it? It's right next to the Jama Masjid in Delhi, and Srila Prabhupada had room there. Now ISKCON has that property. And so he spoke to his father-in-law. His father-in-law, his name was Pandit Krishna Sharma. And his father-in-law said, yes, Swamiji can have a room there. And so that's what Srila Prabhupada says, my Delhi headquarters was, Radha Krishna Chippiwada temple. And so he told me this story, and then he looked at me, and he said, if you don't believe me, go speak to my father-in-law. Said he's still living. So I went to Old Delhi, and I went, by Kashmiri Gate or one of those places, and I found this old building, and, I was knocking on the door, and finally this old man came, very tall man, and he looked at me, and he folded his hands. He said, a Vaishnav has come to my home. He said, please come in. So I went in, and he started telling me all of his stories about Srila Prabhupada. And he told me how Srila Prabhupada would come to his home at least once every 2 weeks to read Srimad Bhagavatam with him. And everybody loved Prabhupada. And his wife really loved Prabhupada. And when Prabhupada would come in, his wife would, she was so excited, and she would say, Swamiji, Swamiji, what can I cook for you tonight? And Prabhupada would look up and say, what are you speaking? You think I'm one of these sannyasis that just go to people's house because I want to fill my belly? I've come to read Srimad Bhagavatam with your husband. Here, please leave us alone. She would get a little shocked and she would leave. They'd start reading Srimad Bhagavatam, and then after a verse or so, Prabhupada would say, call your wife. And then the wife would come, and Prabhupada would say, when you were a girl, did your mother teach you how to make urad dal using, part saunf, part cumin, just a little red chili, a touch of hing, some salt? She said, oh, that's exactly the way my mother taught me how to cook. Prabhupada said, oh, she must have been a very good cook. But why are you disturbing us? Then they'd read a few more verses. Prabhupada said, call your wife. When you were a girl, did your mother teach you how to make gobi aloo sabji? Just using, green chili, a little cumin, a little hing, a little haldi, bas. She said, oh, that's just the way my mother, oh, she was a great cook. But please stop disturbing us. And after 3 or 4 times like that, she just had the menu of exactly what Prabhupada wanted to eat. And she would go and cook it and then come back after, an hour or something like that. And they'd just been reading Srimad Bhagavatam. And the lady would say, Swamiji, Swamiji, prasad is ready. And he looked at her and he said, I did not come here to eat, but because you're showing love, I will accept. Prabhupada had like an unlimited capacity to love. Can you imagine that? Just a boundless capacity to love people. One time a devotee said, Srila Prabhupada, everybody loves you. And Srila Prabhupada said, yes, because I love everyone. I mean, just that capacity for love and his capacity for compassion. He almost died. But why did he go? Because he wanted to give people, a message that would stop the repetition of birth and death, and a message that would assure that they would attain the love of Godhead. Something really, really big. I mean, when I was a boy and I came to Krishna consciousness, why did I join? I didn't join because I knew that Prabhupada was a Paramahamsa. I didn't know what a Paramahamsa was. I didn't join because I knew he was a pure devotee. I didn't know what a pure devotee was. I didn't join for any of these reasons, except I heard that this little man, in his old age, he had so much compassion and so much love that he just wanted to do good for all the people of the world. And I was thinking, that's attractive to me. I would like to follow a person like that, to try to become like that. So Srila Prabhupada was just so loving. And Srila Prabhupada was so loving to his disciples, his young flock. Sometimes the disciples would go on the side, and Srila Prabhupada would just, call them and encourage them. For example, I had a godbrother, a very wonderful godbrother, and he was very young when he became a sannyas. And Srila Prabhupada understood it was a great risk giving young men sannyas. But this devotee, he accepted sannyas. He was actually a beautiful, effulgent devotee. And he traveled all over the world, you know. He particularly worked in Australia, started the yatra there. He was a beautiful kirtan singer. He was a beautiful lecturer. Everything was so nice about this person. And at some point in his youth, you know, he started having problems following the principles and associating with the opposite sex. And so he went away from his sannyas order. Srila Prabhupada's secretary at that time, he wrote a letter to the whole world saying such and such has fallen down. And when Srila Prabhupada heard that, Srila Prabhupada was infuriated. He said, this man has done so much, and now you have just made it impossible for him to come back to Krishna consciousness. So, in August of '77, just before that last trip that Srila Prabhupada made from India to England, Srila Satsvarupa Maharaj flew all the way to Australia, grabbed that devotee, and brought him to the lotus feet of Srila Prabhupada in Vrindavan. And that devotee spent some hours with Srila Prabhupada that afternoon. And then that evening, it was a special day, so we were having a kirtan down to Radha Damodar temple. And this devotee, he led the kirtan, dancing, you know, as effulgent as ever. And then when we got to Radha Damodar, I went to him and I said, Prabhu, you sat with Srila Prabhupada today. He said, what did Srila Prabhupada tell you? And he looked at me and he said, Srila Prabhupada told me never to go away and to always stay with him. He said, Srila Prabhupada told me, it doesn't matter what color cloth you wear. Just stay in Krishna consciousness. Keep following this process. Put yourself in a situation where you'll be able to have strong control on your senses and keep moving forward, but never go away. Never leave this movement. Never leave me. He was very, very kind, Srila Prabhupada. And in Vrindavan in '77, when Srila Prabhupada was declining in his health and ultimately his departure, Srila Prabhupada consistently was asking the devotees, show compassion to others, show love to others by giving them Krishna consciousness. Always do good for others. Always do good for others. So it often makes me think of this verse from the Bhagavad Gita when Lord Krishna speaks and he says, Mame vangsa jiva loke jiva bhuta sanatana manakshastan indriyani prakriti-stani karshati. Where Lord Krishna, he says that all of the living beings, all of the jivas in this world, in every species of life, he said, they're my parts and parcels. And being the parts and parcels of Krishna mean that every living being's inherent nature is eternity, knowledge, and bliss, because we're all parts of Krishna. But then Krishna says, Manakshastan indriyani prakriti-stani karshati. When the living beings live in Prakriti-stan, or the material world, they're constantly undergoing a hard struggle with the mind and senses. So it's a fact that everybody in this world is suffering. There's no way to alleviate the suffering of people without devotion to God. And so I'll wrap it up because I always speak too long over here. But, we're closing out 2025 and we're welcoming 2026. And so we can think, in the year of 2025, did we rise to the standard, to the Vaishnava standard of love and compassion and humanity that we see in our examples like Srila Prabhupada and Caitanya Mahaprabhu and all of your spiritual masters? Did we as individuals, did we rise up to that standard, or did we try to approach that standard? And, will we do that going into 2026? Did we show love to everyone that we meet? Did we show compassion to everyone that we met? Did we show humanity to everyone? Or did we think this one's good, that one's not good? This one's good, that one's not good? We look at 2026 and we think, will we share this message of upliftment with everyone that we will meet? Or, and this is the question, will we share this message, or will we just give lip service to the message? That's something for all of us to think about. Will we really do it, or will we just talk the big game and not do it? And I've seen over 53 years of practicing Krishna consciousness, many times we go outside and we're always preaching and we're always sharing this message of love, compassion, humanity with others. But then inside the society, we don't do it so much sometimes. I've seen. Maybe you've seen, but I've seen. And it makes me think, are we really devotees of Caitanya Mahaprabhu? Or are we just acting like devotees of Caitanya Mahaprabhu or something else? Are we really trying to follow Mahaprabhu's mission? Or are we people that just want to be proud that we keep a shaved head, or that we put tilak, or that we put kanti on our neck? What are we? Are we really practicing Krishna consciousness? Are we just thinking that we're practicing Krishna consciousness? So in conclusion, to wrap up, just try to wrap up on the point, 9 o'clock. Let's go into 2026 together with the focus that we're going to share this message with everyone that we meet. And we're also going to remember to always practice this amongst one another. Krishna says, Manakshastan indriyani prakriti-stani karshati. Everybody in this world is suffering. You don't know. Maybe the person that you're sitting next to is going through some great trial. They need a little love. They need a little compassion. Taking care of people, taking care of Vaishnavas, serving Vaishnavas. Our mission is outside, reaching out to the world. Our mission is inside also. We have to help one another. We have to show love. We have to help people to grow in Krishna consciousness. So, for 2026, let's make more efforts. And let's try to see the good in everyone. This is a faulty world. This is the world of faults. And none of us sitting in this room are free from faults. So if we look at somebody and we see some faulty behavior, well, that's natural because we're living in this world. But the important thing is the people who are here, they've dedicated their life to serving Krishna, through dedicating their lives to serving the feet of their spiritual masters. We should see that. And that's what we should honor, and that's what we should glorify. We should never look at the devotees with a bad eye. We should never speak badly about other devotees. We should always embrace everyone with an open heart and help them to rise in Krishna consciousness. We should invite everyone to this society. It doesn't matter. Lord Chaitanya, he didn't see one good and one bad. He invited everyone, take Krishna Prema. So let us be like that in 2026. Let us grow. Let us share love. Let us share compassion. Let us share humanity. And let us always chant, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama. Thank you. Hare Krishna. Any questions or comments? Yes, sir.
I was listening to some recordings of Srila Prabhupada leading kirtan, and every time Prabhupada would start the Hare Krishna mantra with Vandeham, and then 3 Panchatattvas, or just straight to the Panchatattva, 3 Panchatattva Mahamantras, and then the Hare Krishna with one tune all the way to the end. And he would end the kirtan with the Hare Krishna mantra. There was no Jais or Haribols or Radhe Radhe. It would always be the Maha Mantra all the way to the very end. So I was wondering, why are we not encouraged to follow Prabhupada's example, our founder Acharya, in that way when it comes to kirtan?
That's a good question. I can only speak from my personal practice, and before I begin kirtan, I chant Om Gyan Timrandasya, I chant Srila Prabhupada's Pranam, I chant Hare Nama and Vanchakalpa, I chant Shri Krishna Chaitanya Nityananda, and then I begin kirtan. Srila Prabhupada told us that in any spiritual function, we should chant before having kirtan or speaking. We should chant, the Panchatattva mantra. And I also chant my spiritual master's pranam mantra. I would assume that when functions like this go on, if devotees are not, chanting, they're assuming that at some point earlier, the Prabhupada's pranam or the Panchatattva mantra was chanted. And then in the end, admittedly, I chant Harinam Sankirtan Jagya Ki Jai, and then I will chant Jai Jai Shri Radhe, which some people find controversial. I read Caitanya Caritamrta, I read Srimad Bhagavatam. It seems that Shri Radha is an integral part of our process of Krishna consciousness. And she's, like as Srila Prabhupada said, she's our mother. And so I chant her name, begging for, devotion to the feet of Krishna. So that's what I do, and others, I can't speak for them. I can only speak for myself. I know that Srila Prabhupada was an essentialist. Srila Prabhupada's, stuck to the bare basics. And that's the best I can answer. I can't speak for the whole society. Any other questions?
Thank you, Maharaj. In this mood of love and compassion, how do we, what advice do you have for dealing with feelings of regret or mistakes that we may have made in our Krishna consciousness over the years? Do you have any advice of how to handle feelings of, I made a mistake, or any regrets that we might have in our spiritual practice?
I mentioned Jagai and Madhya, in the beginning, they made a lot of mistakes. And after they became devotees of Mahaprabhu, they always, acknowledged the fact that they had done wrong, and they lived a life, just asking for a very humble life, asking for forgiveness for any mistake that they made. And I think that that's the way it has to be for us also. If we acknowledge that we've made mistakes, well, acknowledgement is one thing, and then just praying to be forgiven for the mistakes that we make. Yeah. Yes, sir. Microphone.
Hare Krishna. Thanks, Maharaj. Such a wonderful class. Thanks for that. Maharaj, I have a quick question. Not quick as such, but I have a question.
Can you speak up a little bit so I can hear?
Is it better now?
Yeah.
Okay. So Maharaj, the way means love and compassion. What is the recommendation? How should we develop that? And one another thing you suggested that if a person is fallen somehow or others, there should be a way for him to come back. So if we are fallen on that process, what should we do? I mean, how can we come back, and what should we consider ourselves with our mistakes or with our situation, how we can come back, and what should we think in that situation?
Okay, first thing was about loving.
Love and compassion.
And love and compassion.
Mm-hmm.
Many years ago, it was during Kartik, I was doing a prikram with Indradunda Maharaj, and we went to Barshana. And we came around the back on the prikram, we came up to Krishna Kund there. I don't know if you're familiar with Barshana prikram. But when we were there, we knew that His Holiness Satyanandan Swami was staying in Mankutir above Krishna Kund. Because Satyananda Maharaj, he does a very austere Kartik Brata every year, and he just chants and chants and chants and chants and reads and reads and reads and reads. And he does it in seclusion. So we knew that he was up there, and we wanted him to come down to speak to the devotees about what realizations he was having during his Kartik Brata. And so we left one devotee to speak to the whole group while we were going up to get Maharaj. And we went in and we said, please come and share your realizations. And he said, but I've had no realizations. He said, I have nothing to share. And we said, no, you can't kid us. We know that you've been thinking about things very deeply over here. You don't know, anyone who knows Satyananda Swami. No, I do not know anything. Very sweetly. So finally, since we were both bigger than him and stronger than him, we just picked him up and carried him down to Krishna Kund. And he was speaking to the devotees. And he said, from all of my chanting and from all of my reading, he said, I've come to understand that we're supposed to love Krishna. He said, but unfortunately, I cannot see Krishna. He said, but I can see Krishna's devotees. So therefore, I should try to love Krishna's devotees, and I should try to serve Krishna's devotees, and I should try to help Krishna's devotees. He said, that's all I've understood. We can't, at this moment we feel him in the kirtan, we feel him when we chant japa, but we can't see him. He said, therefore, just see his devotees and serve his devotees and love his devotees. And I feel that's the way it should be with everyone. Whether we're practicing Krishna consciousness, whether we're Christians, whether we're Muslims, we should extend love to everyone. And then coming with your whatever faults or defects that you have, you can't unring the bell. Once the bell is rung, the bell is rung. But you should just ask the Lord, please. I've made many mistakes, but please accept me as yours. I think in Caitanya Caritamrta there's reference to this verse from, I think it's either from Mahabharata or Ramayana. You just stand in front of the Lord very sincerely with folded hands and say, I've done so many bad things, but from this day on, I'm yours. And then there in the verse it says, the Lord fully accepts that person. We have to understand that Krishna is not a mean person. Krishna is not a cruel person. Krishna is a very loving person. If we make mistakes, I don't think that Krishna dwells on that too much. I think, if anything, Krishna perhaps feels sorrow that we make mistakes. It's not that he's looking to condemn us or give us a hard time. He wants to love us. Just like in the end of the Bhagavad Gita, Krishna says, Manmana bhava madbhakto madhyaji mam namaskuru mami vaishyasi satyam te pratijani priyosime. He says, this is my request. Just think of me with love. Become my devotee, offer homage to me, do puja. And then Krishna says, what's that? Manmana bhavamad bhakto madhijimam namaskuru mam ivaisasi satyam te pratijani priyosime. Then he says, mam ivaisasi satyam te. He says, with all the truthfulness of my heart, I make a promise to you. If you do this, I will bring you to me. And why? Because you've become my priya. You've become my lover. So Krishna he's a person who's interested in love. He's obsessed in love. And he wants all of us to, follow the systematic process of Krishna consciousness so that we can rise in love.
Thanks, Maharaj. Thank you.
Hare Krishna. Anyone else? This is the last one.
Hare Krishna Maharaj, thank you so much for the lecture. My question is you spoke so much about compassion and that we have to invite everyone to the temple. And this is a specific question, in our temple there is one devotee, he comes to the temple, he's sincere.
Pardon?
But he comes to the temple regular, he's very sincere. At the same time, he was criticizing devotees and the temple.
At the same time what?
He was criticizing devotees and the temple management. And at one point, the temple management stopped him from coming, kind of prohibited him to come to the temple. And then he called to me, to some other devotees, and he was sorry, he wanted to come back. So, what to do in these cases when devotees are sincere but keep criticizing and bring problems to the temple?
I think everybody should be given a chance. But if, it's we should encourage people. But if at the same time, if a person just fails to comply with standard Vaishnava protocol and they're criticizing people all the time, I feel that it's, normal to say, please don't come unless you can rectify your behavior. This criticizing is such a bad thing. And everybody is so prone to be critical of people all the time. It's like I said, if people have a fault, that's not an uncommon thing in this world. But the great thing is that people have dedicated their lives to serving Krishna through serving the feet of their spiritual masters. So, if he wants to atone, he should sit down and speak to the temple people, and come to an agreement, and come back. But it's like if I come into your house and I'm always criticizing your husband, and I'm always criticizing the way that you live, and I'm criticizing your son, and I'm criticizing everything that you do, I won't be very welcome there, will I? I won't be. Okay, thank you very much. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
See you in the kirtan today, and see you in the kirtan tonight. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. His Holiness Bibi Govinda Maharaj ki jai. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Thank you so much, Maharaj, for taking the time to come here to Dallas every year. We're so, so grateful. You travel all throughout the world, that you take the time to come here. Tamakrishna Maharaj, in his last Vyas Puja here in Dallas, he spent his lecture in the morning that he gave, he spent 45 minutes praising the spiritual master of every disciple in his zone, and even those that had had some difficulty and fallen away. And I was reminded of that so much in your class. And at the end of the Vyas Puja program in the afternoon, he said, it's so nice when devotees share from the heart with love. And that if devotees continue doing that, we could just do this forever without stopping. And then he said, wouldn't it be so nice if we had the same love that we have for our spiritual masters for every devotee? And then he took it a step further and said, wouldn't it be so nice if we had that same love for every living entity? And in your class I was thinking, wouldn't it be so nice if we had the love that Srila Prabhupada had for us for every living entity? I'm just so grateful to you, Maharaj, for your class, for inspiring us to try to love one another and to come closer together as a community. I believe this will allow us to do what you asked us to do, share Krishna with others, like Prabhupada came here to do and encouraged us all to do. So thank you so much, Maharaj, for your time being here, for inspiring us all, and being such a wonderful example of what it can mean to be a loving devotee. Very grateful to you. Thank you so much. His Holiness Bibi Govinda Maharaj ki jai. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. We pray for many, many more healthy years of your association and many more returns. Hare Krishna.
Where? Oh, I've heard about that. Well, I have to look at my schedule.